Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Bible study. My name is Uziah Lewy, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Coming to you remotely this weekend, as I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. Just finished celebrating with our family, the Hebrew family of Charlotte, the Unity Shabbat weekend, which was an excellent time. As you can hear my kids in the background, so I'm not in my man cave doing what I do every week, so might have to bear with a little bit of noise in the background. Giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High, King of the universe, your host of our for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Thank you, the creator of heaven and earth, for all things and everything, for my life, the life of Kobe, Yisrael, all of you that are out here listening. I pray that the Most High God will continue to be with you, bless you, protect you, that he will keep you, that he will be with you wherever you're at, and that the Most High God would heal anyone that's sick, anyone that has a child in the womb, that the Most High God will cause everything will come through in a good way and in a safe way, that the child will be born healthy with no maladies and no diseases or anything that might hamper or cause the child to perish. We pray that the Most High God will continue to bless all the brothers and sisters who are incarcerated unjustly, especially those who are incarcerated unjustly, and those that have paid their debt to society, that the Most High God will continue to guide them and protect them and cause them to come out and be good citizens in the midst of all the people. We pray that the Creator will gather his people in the four corners of the earth and bring us back to the land which he promised our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We thank all of you this morning because we know that you're taking time out of your day to be with us here this morning. We pray that the Creator will continue to be with you all. So at this moment, I will turn it over to my brother, Rabbi Chief Binyamin, who will be going over, today is our 68th episode. He will be going over Rebuke Your Neighbor, the law of rebuking your neighbor. How are you, Rabbi?
I'm doing good, and hopefully you're well. And everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening, hopefully you're doing well this day. Giving praise and honor to the Most High and thanking him for all of our lives and this opportunity that he has given us to open up his word this day, to open up the Bible and study, and praying that the Most High will guide our minds, guide our thoughts, help us to guide our actions so that we may learn the things that are pleasing in his sight and eventually do the things that are pleasing in his sight, so that we may open up his word, obtain the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that is necessary for us to survive on this earth that he has created. So we are grateful for the opportunity that he has given us to open up his word and to study this day, praying that he would teach us all so that we would not lead astray nor be led astray. And for all of those that are watching, all of those that are listening, feel free to invite your family and your friends to this Bible study so that they would also have an opportunity to take part in these lessons that we do every week, every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern time. We generally spend about 20 minutes to 30 minutes on the discussion for the day, and then spend the remaining time of the hour taking questions or comments with the subject matter of the day. So again, just feel free to invite your family and your friends. This is an open discussion for all of those that use the Bible as the foundation of their belief. So as we continue to go forth this day, the subject for today is rebuke your neighbor. So as we get into this discussion with this commandment that we read here, we could say it may be brief, but generally some of the brief topics, especially the last session we had, leading to other questions and other comments. But again, we just pray that the Most High will be with us as we field the questions and field the comments, so that we may all learn to grow. Again, this is opportunities for not just the voices that you hear, but an opportunity for all of us to learn and to understand the word of the Most High, so that we may open ourselves up to him, so that he may teach us the way that we should be walking before him. So in order for us to get into the conversation, we're going to go into the book of Leviticus chapter 19. And in verse 17, there were actually 3 statements made here, but for today's subject, we are focusing on the middle statement in regards to rebuking your neighbor. But the entire verse says, "Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt surely rebuke thy neighbor and not bear sin because of him." So again, we're focusing on the middle statement, "Thou shalt surely rebuke thy neighbor." We can get into the command in regards to not hating your brother, in the future, and also not bearing sin because of him in the future. But in reality, we could connect the last statement with the one that we're dealing with today. So in terms of rebuke, because generally there's a statement, or generally there's a thought pattern that we should not judge, we should not correct, we should not reprove. This is, unfortunately, the thinking, in the world today, to where, people make statements that only God can judge me, and, things of that nature. However, we read here that the Most High God, again, these are commandments given by the Most High God. And this is one of the reasons why we do have the Bible studies, to focus on the commandments that the Most High God has given us in order for us to, again, survive on this earth that he has created, so we may live before him righteously. And in him teaching us, or him commanding us to rebuke our neighbor, basically we have the ability to rebuke one another. This is in essence judging another individual. Now, these judgments, or these rebukes, will be based, of course, on the command of the Most High God. So based on the things that we read in the 10 Commandments, based on the things that we have read, throughout the first 5 books of the Holy Scriptures, based on those commands, based on the information that we received there, these will be the guidelines on how we will rebuke each other. So just as we're commanded to rebuke, we also have to bear in mind that we have to accept rebuke as well. We have to be able to accept correction, because basically that is the definition of rebuke. It's basically reprove, to judge, it is to correct. And again, we can't have the mindset that we're not able to tell one another what is right and what is wrong. And we also can't have the mindset of thinking that no one can tell us when we're wrong. So this command teaches us all to live in humility, and at the same time teaches us that we all have a responsibility to one another. Because with the last statement of this verse, which says, "And bear not sin because of him," is basically teaching us that we cannot cause somebody else to sin. So we see somebody going down the wrong path, if we see somebody doing things or about to do things that they're not supposed to be doing, that we should tell them about it. We should correct them, so that way we're not causing them to sin. And also it's that the literal translation should be so that we would not lift sin upon him. So we're not causing somebody, we should not be causing someone else to sin. We're not causing anybody to bear any sin by us reproving them, by us rebuking them and telling them when they're wrong. We're basically helping them to lift sin off of them. And again, on the reverse, we have to learn to accept rebuke, so that we can have sin taken off of us when people tell us that we're doing something wrong, or correcting us and helping us to do things that or teaching us to do things that we're not supposed to do. So that, command is, is basically stated like that in the book of Leviticus. We're actually going to go into the book of Proverbs and probably do a few verses there in regards to that, just in terms of the word rebuke. And also you'll see that word reprove in other sections. And now this is also teaching us, we're going to go into the book of Proverbs chapter 13, starting with verse 1, where it says, a wise son is instructed of his father, but a scorner hears not rebuke. So again, with us learning that we're supposed to rebuke one another, also we have to accept the rebuke that comes along with it. So when someone is telling us to do what is right, we have to put ourselves in a position where we can listen to them, hear them, and we can obtain instruction from them so that we would not, close our ears, because reproof or, us being rebuked would also teach us that we're getting instruction. It also helps us to learn to obtain understanding when someone is teaching us what is right from what is wrong. And again, overall, this teaches us to be humble. So again, with this statement here in Proverbs, it's basically just giving us also the understanding that, parents are going to instruct their children. Again, the rebuke or the reproof is basically an instruction. So parents, one of the responsibilities of the many responsibilities of a parent would be to rebuke or reprove or instruct their children. And us being wise children, or us overall being wise people, we would want to receive those instructions. We would want to receive that rebuke or that reproof. And on the other hand, if we're not going to accept it, then we would be labeled a scorner. We're going to go to let's stay in the book of Proverbs, again, dealing with reproof and rebuke. We're going to go to chapter 3, and in verse 12, it says, for whom Jehovah loves, he corrects, even as a father, the son in whom he delights. So again, just connecting that to what we just read. And, just reminding everybody of the convention that we do here for our Bible study. Whenever we encounter the name of God, we pronounce it during our Bible studies. And most of our English translations, you'll see the words, the Lord, with the word Lord all in capital letters most of the time. So sometimes it may just be the capital L. And then in the Hebrew text, because the majority of the Holy Scriptures, the Old Testament, is written in the Hebrew language. In the Hebrew text, it won't say the Lord, which is actually in Hebrew would be Adonai. But in those places, you'll see the actual name of God, which is in Hebrew, the consonants of Yod, He, Waw, He, which corresponds to YHWH in English. And we pronounce it here as Yehovah, and many people around the world pronounce it as Yahweh. So we just want to, as we always do every week, just explain that so that people will know the God they were speaking about and the God that is speaking to us through these words that we're getting here. So again, for whom Jehovah loves, he corrects. So when he commanded us in the book of Leviticus, which we read in the beginning of our discussion, and he commands us to rebuke our neighbor, it also teaches us to love one another. And that's why it also would be connected to the first statement of that verse, which says, do not hate your brother in your heart. Because if you don't rebuke somebody, if you don't correct somebody, when you see them doing wrong, it's as though you hate them. So that's why, even though that verse in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17 had 3 separate statements, they technically are all connected. But again, today's discussion is focusing on the fact that we do have the ability, and we are also commanded to correct one another. We are also, we're commanded to instruct one another. So then when we have information based on based on what we read and based on the understanding the Most High has given us, based on his commandments, statutes, and judgments, we have a responsibility to teach that to other people. Again, this is a teaching. It's not something done so that we can put people to shame. It's not something that's done to put people down. It's not something that is done so that we can lift ourselves up over other people. But as the final statement in Leviticus 19:17 said, is so that we can help others take the sin off of them. And in turn, it helps us to take the sin off of us as well. even though that's not exactly what it said in that statement, but by us teaching and instructing one another, it helps us create a society where we are lifting sin off of one another. And with sin being taken off of us, it allows the Most High God to enter into our lives, not just individually, but also collectively. So just wanted to also reiterate what we just read here, is that, with rebuke comes love. It's also stated in Ecclesiasticus, which is the prophets in the Apocrypha, that there's a rebuke that's comely. There's a way to speak to people when you're instructing them. There's a way to speak to people when you're rebuking them so that they're not feeling shamed, they're not put on the defense, but you're doing it in a manner that shows them love. We're going to go to just one more verse, because there's many verses in the book of Proverbs, but we're going to go to one more verse. We're going to actually go to Proverbs 20, chapter 28. And it's going to be verse 23, which says here, he that rebukes a man shall in the end find more favor than he that flatters with the tongue. So this verse here is teaching us that in us rebuking, that even though it may be difficult in the beginning, many of us may not be comfortable with telling other people that, they're doing something wrong. And also it depends on the relationship that we have with the individuals that we're rebuking. But what this verse is telling us here, that we'll have more favor in the end, even from those individuals that we're rebuking, as opposed to just being someone that, flattering with the tongue is just basically telling somebody that they're right, just agreeing with everything that somebody does. And you're basically flattering them just so that they can find favor in your sight and vice versa. But this proverb here is teaching us that in reality, that we would actually find more favor from an individual if we instructed them, because by helping them get the sin off of them, and also in the reverse, if someone is helping us get sin off of us, it may not be comfortable for us when we're hearing it at first. But in the end, just knowing that it allows us the opportunity to be connected with the Most High God, then we would feel good about it, and then also feel good about the individuals that are speaking to us and helping us to correct ourselves. So we're going to go into the books of the prophecies. We're going to go to the book of Isaiah. And this is just using the word that is in the Hebrew, which is translated as rebuke, which is actually a correct translation. But this is here in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 18. This is a common phrase that people know about, where it says, "Come now and let us reason together, says Jehovah. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool." And again, the beginning statement of this verse is something that is popular, where it says, let us reason together. So this is where the Most High God is speaking to the children of Israel while they are doing wrong. And what the Most High God is basically saying here, based on the translation and based on the word, which is the same word in Hebrew, in these verses, the previous verse that we read, and all the previous two verses that we read in Proverbs, and also in Leviticus, where it's translated as rebuke in most of those places, but here it's translated as reason. But the Most High God is saying that especially when you take everything in context, if you read everything in this chapter, the Most High God is saying here in this sense that if he's doing something wrong, then correct him. But he's saying also listen to him as he corrects us. That's basically the sense of what is given here. We know that the Most High God is never wrong, but he's giving people the opportunity. When he says reason, is giving people the opportunity that if you think that he's doing something wrong, then bring it before him. If you feel that the judgment that he's bringing upon you is wrong, then let him know of it. But he also is saying at the same time, listen to him when he's speaking to you or when he's dealing with you in a certain matter, because as he's correcting you, he's basically saying, accept that correction. So these are just some of the other trends. Just went to this verse just to show that there are other translations in English from the same concept or the same word for rebuke. So just showing that overall, as we rebuke, the Most High God is teaching us to correct one another. And also in correcting, you'll see all the other translations that will use the word instruct in many of these verses. So we're not going through all of the verses, or even most of the verses today, but we're focusing on the command itself that we read in the book of Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17, again, where the Most High God has commanded us that we are supposed to rebuke one another, again, don't think of rebuke in such of a harsh term, because again, in English, as we hear, that word is usually said in a harsh manner. It's said in a manner that makes, the word rebuke itself feels uncomfortable. But just think of it as where some of the other translations will have it as instruct. So we're commanded to instruct one another. We're commanded to tell one another when they're doing something wrong. And we're also supposed to accept instruction from other people when people are telling us when we're doing something that is wrong. So at this time, just keeping it brief today. As mentioned, we usually spend about 20 minutes to a half an hour on the subject, but it's going to be even less this day, and open up the rest of the time for questions and comments that people may have in regards to this subject or in regards to any other subject. But we'll deal with the subject matter of today first with our questions and comments before going into anything else. And also, for those that are watching, you can also suggest topics that we can discuss in future sessions. You could leave them in the chat as we're live, or you could mention it in the comments of the previous videos that are up here for the Bible study. And also you can ask your questions there as well, and we'll do the best that we can to get back to you, because we know that many people are not watching this live, but people get an opportunity to watch these videos after they're no longer live, and we'll do the best that we can to respond to the questions and comments that are left in the comments on the chat at that time. So we're gonna go into the chat at this time and discuss some of the questions and comments that are there. I know that Chief Uziel normally moderates the session, but as he mentioned earlier, where he
got it. I got it. Let me the kids actually just ran upstairs, so it gave me a little break. The first question is from things they don't discuss in church. Even if there was a disagreement with Paul and Peter, Yeshua says, pull your brother aside first and talk to him privately. Don't just put him on blast and curse him out publicly. Matthew chapter 18:15, Galatians 2, verses 11 through 14.
That's more of a comment.
That's a statement. That's more of a statement. Paul wrote the church in Galatia this is a comment also.
So in regards to rebuke, as I mentioned in the comment, that there's going to be different ways that people rebuke or instruct other people. And the main thing is to do it in a manner that they will accept it. So whether, as the comment mentioned, or if there's a disagreement, that you would pull somebody aside, that would be obviously the best way to do it at first. But also you have to bear in mind the severity of the crime or the sin that is being committed. You may not, and also your relationship with the individual, you may not have the opportunity or the ability to pull them aside. And also think about the instruction. It may not be you directly, but just making sure that it is known. There is going to be some cases or some situations where you know that somebody's doing something wrong, and then you'd have to take that to judges. So whether it's something that you do directly, towards an individual so that they could correct themselves, and in them correcting themselves, making sure that they repent, and depending on the severity of the crime, make restitution for what they did, or the rebuke could also, or the instruction could also be that you take it to judges, so the judges could approach those individuals to make sure that correction is done. But overall, the correction has to be done, and judgment is going to be or should be executed either way. And don't think of judgment as something that's always harsh, but it could be just that there's some retribution or restitution that has to be made. So again, there's going to be various forms of rebuking or instructing somebody, whether it's pulling them to a side or doing it privately. But overall, the goal is to make sure that they are instructed and that restitution is made based on the wrong that was done.
And I may add, it's better to rebuke or to correct someone than to be angry secretly. A lot of times, what I see or what I know with people is when you pin up things because you see people doing something wrong and you don't address them right at the time because maybe the person doesn't know they're doing something wrong, but you feel in your heart that they should know that they're doing something wrong. You never explain it to them. That kind of builds up in people. This is why you're not supposed to wait for a long time before you say what's on your heart or how you feel, because that buildup could turn into something different. And then you start bombarding a person with a bunch of things. You be like, I didn't know you had all these feelings about me. I didn't know, initially that this was something that I did that was wrong. And then now, instead of you helping the person out or bringing it up to them from the initial thing that you saw that they did, now it becomes more of the person not really messing with you, not really wanting to be around you because they felt like you had all these pent up feelings. So rebuke also worked both ways. It worked for the person who's rebuking, right? And the person who's being rebuked, because you can also offend in the way that you rebuke if you're holding that thing for so long that you let it build up and you don't address something immediately when it happens. They said there's a saying that says there's a rebuke that's not comely, meaning that every rebuke is not going to be nice. Every rebuke that our parents gave us wasn't nice, but it was necessary at the time. And you also have to be able to take rebuke. You can't be thin-skinned when people are rebuking you, or even when people are, when they're giving you constructive criticism, because constructive criticism also could be a form of rebuke. What do you think about that, Rabbi?
Yeah, I would agree with you saying that, we have to not only be in a position where we give rebuke or instruction, because some people tend to like that after a while. But on the reverse, you have to be able to accept correction. And also with your point and making sure that it's something that is done immediately, that when you see something that somebody's doing that is wrong, that you correct them immediately the best way that you can possible. And also that's going to depend on the relationship that you have with them, whether you're able to go to them directly or go to somebody that they may know. But again, you want to make sure that the correction is done as fast as possible, as soon as possible. So as we read in that verse, you're not lifting sin upon them or causing them to bear that sin. And as you mentioned, as time goes along without the correction, you may start to have feelings towards that individual. And then when it all comes out, it might be too late, because now you're not just dealing with them being corrected, but you're also dealing with the feelings that get involved as a result of the time frame that lapsed, because of the lack of correction. And it also could be detrimental to the entire society as well by letting those types of things fester. So there's, many reasons to want to rebuke somebody, immediately, whether openly or privately, but also doing it in a manner that is comely so that they could accept it, accept that correction.
There's a question here. Let me see. So my 12-year-old grandson asked me to teach him to serve Yah. I teach him Torah, walk in a righteous path for him to see. Or he continues to go to church and learn about JC. Any advice?
So in regards to that, there's going to be different ways to instruct people, especially when it's, because basically what this question is dealing with is the difference between the Old Testament and New Testament, and teaching the right and the wrong of the New Testament, basically, is where the question is coming from. But each individual is going to accept it a different way. There's going to be methods that would be employed in showing contradictions between the old and the new. There may be methods that are employed in showing contradictions between or within the new itself. But overall, it's a matter of praying to the Most High God that He gives you the ability to instruct or the ability to teach your sons or your grandsons so that they would obtain the true information of the Most High God. Again, the purpose of even why we do the Bible study is that, and it's open to all, so that we can all come to a proper understanding and hopefully the correct understanding, together of the word of the Most High. So ultimately, where it starts is with prayer to the Most High, and just knowing that the ability or the inability is not within you. The Most High is going to call who He decides to call. He opens, doors for those He wants to let in, and closes doors for those, for who He keeps out. So once you look at it in that manner where it's not your fault one way or the other, then hopefully, you start to feel comfortable in speaking in a manner where you're just glorifying the Most High, where you're teaching the word of the Most High so that the Most High Himself can enter into their lives and bring them in. So it definitely starts off with prayer, and then following that up with, intent studying the things that are right versus the things that are wrong, and, building up strength in that manner through the study to where you're able to deliver the word and deliver instruction to other people. And, not doing it in a manner, as we were speaking today about rebuke, not doing it in a manner that is uncomely, but, dealing with people on their level and just showing people the way that they're supposed to walk in. Also having conversation. If an individual is walking in a certain path, as I mentioned in the question, in regards to going into church, just having conversations in terms of finding out what they're learning from church, what it is that, it's intriguing them about that way of life. And then by learning from them, the things that is intriguing them in that way of life, then you would learn how to approach them, because then you would have more information on how to deal with them on that level. Because basically, again, when it comes to these various conversations, it's about dealing with one another on the level where we are. So it's about finding out, again, what we're into, what each of us into, finding out what piques our interest in those ways of life and the different understandings that we have, and then meeting each other on that level and just showing, a different way, which is the correct way, but showing them a different way based on how they interact with you. So these are just some of the methods that could be used to help us all grow together as we're, teaching one another and instructing one another.
I don't see any more questions. Let me see. I always say the Most High is only going to call those that He knows is going to answer the call. Thank you, A. Blackman, for your donation. It's well appreciated. May the Most High God bless you. Peace and blessings to you also. What the Gihonon did Paul, let me see. What the Gihono did Paul mean by this? 1 Corinthians 5:5. Hand this man over to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, so that his spirit may be saved on the day of the Lord. 1 Timothy verse 1 through 20.
So I understand what the beginning of that question is. So Gehonim is basically a biblical word, not really biblical, but an ancient word for hell for today. So instead of you saying hell, the question had Gehonim in there. So it's just a play in the word. But overall, in regards to actually what we can do in the future, I will sort of hold off on that question. What we can do in the future is actually have a topic in regards to Satan or Satan, the existence of Satan, the relevance of Satan and of who he is and where the concept came from. You know, we could act to that. This question actually would require us to have that type of conversation first and just coming to an understanding on who or what Satan or who or what Satan is, or also known as Lucifer, also known as the devil. And, you know, those would be the most common names or references to Satan or Satan. So, you know, we could sort of hold off on that question because this question, again, requires us to actually have a conversation on the existence or the relevance of Satan. But just in terms of this statement overall, again, yeah, because we would have to have a conversation of that before we could actually delve into this question.
All right, let me see here. No, there's another question here. Let me make sure. Let me see. Yes. I don't have my usual setup here, so it takes me a little bit longer, so just bear with me. Yisrael writes, Shalom to all. Some leaders attempt to rebuke through public teachings instead of one-on-one counseling, without the facts being tried and proven before judges, elders. Is that slander when known who's being spoken of? Part two, correction. Part two is the slander when someone know who's being spoken of. These are questions.
So now when teachers are teaching publicly, teachers do have a responsibility to instruct and to instruct properly and to instruct or judge righteously as they're doing so. There are going to be instances where teachers, based on scenarios or situations that are occurring within a congregation, within a society, or within a community, that a teacher would address it. And by addressing it, it's basically
correction.
It is correction. And in some instances, they're going to be, as the question is mentioned, is, the teacher may not mention names, but individuals will know who is being spoken about or what is the subject matter. Now, overall, if there's something happening in a community or within a congregation, yes, it's supposed to be done as a question state. There's going to be counseling that should take place first, one-on-one, because of course, not everybody wants to be put on blast, so to speak, publicly, even if the names are not mentioned. People may know of a situation and it will still make the individual feel uncomfortable. So part of having a rebuke that is comely is, dealing with situations and individuals in a manner that is comely. And teachers, have a responsibility to make sure that situations are addressed, but also make sure that people are comfortable at the same time. So by, again, on one side, when a teacher addresses something publicly, is to let people know that they are aware of what's going on and making people aware of what should be done and what should not be done. So sometimes, teachers end up in a difficult situation when it comes to situations such as that, because, there are going to be a lot of situations that happen and teachers must address them.
And also teachers, I think I understand part of the question is, or what's being addressed is that sometimes things are put on blast without both sides of the story being heard. So let's say a brother brings something to a teacher, and then the teacher's speaking about it without hearing the other party, a brother or a sister, and they just automatically take a side, almost like being harsh and correcting, and they didn't hear the other side. Now Asia, calm down. Now Asia, go upstairs. Go upstairs. Come on, let's go. You're making too much noise, son. Okay, go. Yeah, so if that teacher doesn't hear the other side, then it's an injustice to the person who's being spoken about without hearing the other side. I think that's what they're speaking about in terms of that, when you come to a judgment and having judges and people to correct, because I've seen that a lot too. You hear one side, and I've had to tell teachers personally, hey, that's only one side of the story you're hearing, and you're going on the beamer with that. You haven't heard the other person. And I believe there's a proverb that speaks about that in terms of, the person who makes the complaint first always seems right until his neighbor rebuttals. So I don't know if you want to address that, Rabbi.
Yeah, that's in the Proverbs where the one that speaks first seems to be in the right, then his neighbor comes forward and shifts the case, is basically what it says in the Proverbs. So one of the responsibilities also with the teachers is, as you mentioned, to hear both sides of a matter. And when speaking about matters publicly, especially on the Sabbath day being a holy day, this is not, the Sabbath day, shouldn't be a day where everybody's just, teachers are going up just to blast people. Instructions have to be done. So, on one side, there is when teachers know about a situation, teach the law in regards to the situation, as opposed to teaching the judgment of individuals when situations arise. Because in doing so, because we also instructed when we read throughout, especially throughout the book of Deuteronomy, that when people hear, when things happen, that judgments are made so that people hear and fear and do no more evil. But that's after everything is done, everything is judged, and the information, as you mentioned, is received on both sides, and people are instructed and judged based on the situations. But I'm just saying, on the other hand, teachers do have a responsibility to instruct. So if there's situations happening, teachers should have within themselves the ability to speak about a matter without making it seem that they're putting people on blast. Being able to speak about a wrongdoing that's done based on the law that is being broken, so that they can address laws, commandments, statutes, and judgments publicly, so that it will also instruct all of those that hear it, so that they would know not to do any type of thing. But of course, the way we live now, people know about certain things. So when anybody's talking about a certain subject, automatically things come into people's mind, like, oh, this teacher's talking about such, this is not, because, what you just mentioned, that teachers are speaking about certain matters without hearing the other side. So that's something that is wrong. So I'm not speaking about that aspect. I'm just saying in terms of teachers teaching the law. Teachers have the responsibility still to teach the law. And when there are matters happening, teachers should just teach the law of that matter, as opposed to teaching judgments of individuals publicly. And that's, the mindset that we're supposed to have as people, and especially those of us that teach, whether it's teaching publicly or teaching one-on-one through counseling, we have to develop the ability to just teach the law.
Yes, Rabbi, definitely. That is the teachers do have a responsibility for things that are going on to address them. But I think this person was speaking in terms of someone bringing something to them. While we're on, I see we have 19 people watching. I know that a lot of people that watch us are actually down here in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of them approached me yesterday, and a shout out to all of you. If you watch this later, thank you all for your support. And those of you that didn't make it out to Charlotte, I thank you all also for your support. Don't forget to press the like button on this video. Don't forget to press the like button on this video. So far, that's all the questions that we have. Let me see.
Oh, and also didn't give the email address earlier because in regard to subscription, if you're a new subscriber, you wouldn't be able to comment, right away. So if you do have questions and comments, you probably have to wait a week. That's just one of the filters that's put on this channel. But if you did have any questions or comments, you could always email info@dcb.org, info@beitdcb.org. Any questions or comments. That's in the future because we're basically almost at the end today. But that would be in the future that if you're not able to comment on the live chat, that you would be able to leave your questions or comments. That way, we'll be able to check them while we're on and read them.
I just wrote it on the actual chat. I just wrote the email address on the chat. So as we conclude this today, which is very short. I mean, we almost got an hour in. I think we got about 50 minutes in. But as we conclude, as I say every week, we usually, we don't charge for this, but we do ask for donations. So to all of you, I don't have my regular setup, so I can't put the QR codes up. But if you would like to donate to us via Cash App, you could donate to us at Cash App using the money symbol BEITDCB, or you could donate to us on PayPal using the email address that I just put up there, info@beitdcb.org. You could donate to us via that way. And also on Zelle, the same email address. The same email address. info@beitdcb.org. Yes. Someone asked, can someone recommend somewhere I can purchase garments online? I hate Western attire.
Yeah, we'd have to get some
Amazon.
Well, yeah, I was thinking more in the community, but yes, Amazon has quite a few places. But yeah, in terms of our community, there are people that sew. There are tailors and seamstresses within our community. You'd have to get a good list, and we could actually post that in the future. But in the meantime, yeah, Amazon does have quite a few locations. You just search for cultural garments. You can search for African garments, and you'll see quite a few sites come up. Just verify that. A majority of them will be 100% cotton, but just verify that in the descriptions of those garments, and you can find it that way as well.
Hallelujah. So, as we conclude, We thank you all once again for joining us. I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to watch over us and bless us and keep us. As I say these words, I pray that the Most High God will bless us all. Yivareka Yehovah Yishmareka. Ya'ir Yehovah Panawaleka Wukuneka. Isa Yehovah Panawaleka Wayastamaka Shalom. May Yehovah bless thee and keep thee. May Yehovah make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. May Yehovah lift up his countenance upon thee and may he grant thee peace. Amen. Thank you all once again for joining us. May the Creator of heaven and earth be with you all. Shalom, shalom, and everyone have a blessed day. Hallelujah.